How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I have finally returned. And instead of doing the list video today, I'm going to be doing my spotlight of a Golden Age hero. But first, we need to set the mood because right now, we're a little too modern. Well, that's pretty darn close, but it doesn't go back far enough because this is only the 70s, so yep, this is a lot better. It puts us as close as we're going to get to be able to going back on this. Because as far back as we're going is before even televisions were popular in the homes. And we are going back to one of the, if not the very first hero to be in print on comics. We are going all the way back to 1928, and we're spotlighting Buck Rogers. So, here we go. Buck Rogers, or Anthony Buck Rogers, was created by Philip Francis Nolan. He would appear for the first time in Amazing Stories, which was issued by Pulp magazine. He came from a space opera novella entitled Armageddon 2419. It would later be structured for comic strips and would appear for the first time in January 7th, 1929, and be published until July 8th in 1967. It was revived in 1979 and ran as Buck Rogers in the 25th Century and went until 1983. Buck Rogers would appear in many other media formats throughout the years, including comic book and novels. He would also appear on radio, television, and films. There would be board games and video games based on him, a plethora of toys, and inspirations of stuff that he's done would be felt throughout the years in many different projects. Now, origin stories sometimes get changed when you have different media formats, but the original origin story of Buck Rogers was that when he was 20 years old, they stopped the World War. He was taken out of the air services and started working as a surveyor. He was surveying a mine in Pittsburgh when there was a cave-in and he fell into the cave. The gases that were there were able to put his body into a coma state where he would be in a state of suspended animation until 2429 AD, where he would wake up. After rescuing a woman named Wilma, he proved to her that he was actually from the past. After holding off some invading hordes, she would take him back to her people, where he would prove to them that he is from the past, and then he would live his life from then on. Buck Rogers was also what got people interested in space travel and space exploration for the first time. Buck Rogers would have some success on the radio before TV became the main entertainment forum in the home. He had his first broadcast in 1932 and ran from 1936. He also had a slight revival in 1939 and 1940, and one last time from 1946 to 1947. In 1939, Buck Rogers also had a 12-part serial film, and what this was in movie theaters, there'd be a short film before the main production, and this was to keep people from coming in to make sure they didn't miss any of the story. In this one, Buck Rogers and a friend of his, Billy Wade, had their airship crash in the Arctic. Knowing that they couldn't survive on their supplies, they breathed in a gas that would suspend them in animation for 500 years. They would awaken in the year 2440, where an evil tyrannical dictator was ruling the earth, and it was up to Buck and his friend Buddy to overthrow the evil dictator. Buck Rogers would appear on television a couple of times. First back in the 50s, on April 15th, 1950 until January 30th, 1951, There were a total of 36 black and white episodes. Unfortunately, none of those can found to be in existence today. He would also come back in 1979. And that was Buck Rogers in the 25th Century to go along with the revived comic. It was first a film which served as the pilot for the series that appeared on March 30th, 1979. It would run for 2 seasons until 1981, where it would be subsequently canceled. There were 4, I guess we can say, sequels that were written to Armageddon 2419. A 86-year-old Anthony Rogers was rejuvenated, and he was the star of these 4 novels, 3 of them written in 1981, and the 4th written in 1983. In 1988, TSR Incorporated, who is responsible for Dungeons & Dragons, started a new Buck Rogers universe, which is called Buck Rogers XXVC. There would be many products associated with this new universe, such as role-playing games, board games, comic books, novels, and video games. The role-playing game was Buck Rogers and Neo, which was the New Earth organization, fought against RAM, a Russian-American corporation based on Mars. There was many materials released with this role-playing game. At the same time, TSR also put out a board game which was Buck Rogers in Battle for the 25th Century. This is based on token movement and resource management. There was a expansion that was made which was called Mars War Expansion, but it is not known if any of these were ever released. In 1989, to go along with the role-playing game, there were 10 paperback novels that were printed to expand the XXVC universe, the last of which came out in 1995. In 1990, there were a couple of Buck Rogers video games released by Strategic Simulations Incorporated. First was the Buck Rogers Countdown to Doomsday for the Commodore 64, the Sega Mega Drive, and the IBM computer. It would have a sequel in 1992 called Matrix Cubed. Buck Rogers would appear in comic books along with the comic strips. He would have a lot of appearances in Famous Funnies. Then he would go on to have his own self-titled comic books. Some of them were produced by Western Publishing, Gold Key Comics, and Whitman Publishing. In 2009, Dynamite Entertainment put out a 13-part series, and in 2012, a new adaptation of Buck Rogers comic books were done, and all put into a compilation series titled Grievous Angels in 2014. There are a number of guns that came out based on the Buck Rogers series. I'll highlight a few of them. There was the XZ31 rocket pistol, which was a 9.5-inch pop gun that made a zap sound when you fired it. There was also a XZ38 disintegrating pistol. It had a flint and striker, so it would shoot out sparklers, which would make it look like more like a disintegrating pistol, and a ZX44 liquid helium water pistol, which was a water gun that could shoot up to 50 times before you needed to reload it. Buck Rogers would go on to influence many things throughout the years, some of which was in Looney Tunes produced a spoof in 1953 of Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century, played of course by Daffy Duck. This would actually go on to inspire a cartoon series called Duck Dodgers that premiered in 2003, went on for 3 seasons, and produced 39 episodes. In the Steven Spielberg blockbuster film E.T. in 1982, he was inspired by Buck Rogers with E.T. making the makeshift communication device, much as the way that Buck Rogers did in the comic strip. When Matt Groening came out with his Futurama in 1999, he said that he was strongly influenced in his themes and characters from the Buck Rogers comic strip, along with other scientific books and films. And this is some of the impact that Buck Rogers has had on the culture throughout the years. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and the little journey that we took throughout the years of Buck Rogers and his cultural significance throughout the ages. If you did like this video, please go ahead and give that like button a click. If you have any questions or comments about the content that was in my video, or something that you didn't understand that I can explain better, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section. If you like what I do here and you want to see more of the videos that I've done and more of the Golden Age videos that I'm going to do in the future, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So, thanks for anybody who's watching this, and tune in next week while I will be spotlighting another Golden Age hero. So until then, I'll see you.